Hello, this is Dr. Shani Collins Woods from AskDrShani.com, here to share with you some insights about my life and how I became a professor of social work. Before I get into this video, please be sure to like this video, but also subscribe to my channel, and please share this video with others who may be interested in learning more about the professoriate, learning about the whole process of obtaining a PhD, and those who just may be generally interested in learning more about the academic and teaching profession or being in the professoriate. So a little bit about me. I am a native of Mississippi, the Mississippi Delta to be exact. Had a wonderful time growing up in the Delta with both my parents and my sister, who's also a professor. I mentioned this in some of my videos. I sort of grew up around family members who really championed education. My mom's brothers and sisters, 6 of them attended Tougaloo College, 5 attended and graduated from Tougaloo College. 5 attended and graduated from Mississippi Valley State University. Also on my dad's side, his sisters and brothers, some of them had attended college, and so my cousins and I have all pretty much graduated from college, and so going to college was something that I always knew I would do. It was never in like a option, like not going. I always knew that I would go to college. And so when I hear stories about people who really, don't know or very uncertain about that, I have a heart for individuals who, really just never, become fully aware of the many possibilities that are out there for them. I've always had a strong support system with my family unit, especially with my mom, my dad, my sisters, but also just in my extended family unit with my uncles and aunts, just on my mom and dad's side. So I've had a lot of support growing up in my life. And so I'm very grateful for that and very humbled by that. And so if I can give back to other people or just share nuggets of wisdom, I really try to do that, especially for all of my students. So I just encourage people to just succeed, and I don't mind sharing information. So, graduated from college, I attended Tougaloo College, which is located in Tougaloo, Mississippi, and Jackson, Mississippi. After graduating, I attended Clark Atlanta University, for my master's degree. I earned a master's degree in Africana Women's Studies. So, I'm a women's studies major. I'm all about, Black women, Black empowerment, looking at things that impact people and communities of color, just studying that whole, field was just so important to me. I learned so much about myself as a Black woman. Oh, when I went to Tougaloo, I was an English major. English, and I sort of had an emphasis in African American studies. So after Clark Atlanta, after graduating, I had to write a big thesis at Clark. I did it on depression among African American college women at a historically Black college in I think southeast portion of the United States. It's been such a long time ago. But I knew I wanted to obtain a terminal degree, and I did have role models. My uncle, my mom's twin brother, has a PhD. He is a former university provost. Like I said, most of my cousins and my sister, she had earned a master's degree. Most of my cousins had gone on, some of my older cousins had gone on to earn their master's degree. I had another cousin who's a pharmacist. So I had these role models of people, Black people who have been, have had access to education. So that wasn't new to me. And I had a great professor from Tougaloo tell me, Shani, make sure you go, whatever you do, whatever you decide to do, get a terminal degree so that you will have job security for the rest of your life. So terminal, MD, JD, PhD. So something that will ensure that you have job security. So I said, okay. So my whole goal was to become this lawyer, but God had a different plan for my life. When I was 15, I used to work in my Uncle Solomon's law office. My uncle's a state representative now, but at one point he was a judge, and at one point he had his own legal practice. So when we were in high school, my sister and I, used to work in my uncle's office. So I saw his passion for the people, passion for doing, things related to civil rights activism, in the Mississippi Delta. So I was inspired by that. And I was like, I'm going to be a civil rights attorney. I'm going to do it. So when I was in college, my senior year, I applied to law school, didn't get accepted. And I was like crushed and mortified. I did not know what I was going to do. I was like, God, like, you called me to do this. I know that I can do it. I know I'm smart. I can become a lawyer. Why is this not my path? So I applied again while I was pursuing my master's degree at Clark Atlanta. Boom, rejected again. And so I just really yielded. I had my cry out about it. I said, you know what, God, I've applied to a lot of schools. My LSAT score isn't good, but that is no indicator of my capabilities. I know I can become a great lawyer, but I had to yield to the fact that God had a different plan for my life. So I started looking into PhD programs. And at the time, when I was applying, after I had faced that rejection from law school when I was at Clark Atlanta, I was also working at Clark Atlanta as an administrative assistant for the chair of a particular department there. And so they had this new black faculty lady come in. And so I was going to school and working. And she was sitting down talking to me one day, and I just mustered up the courage to say, you know what, she's new. I heard she just got her PhD. I want to talk to her. And I'm going to mention some of that in my video about reaching out to people while you need a mentor. And I asked her, I said, you know what, listen, this is my path. I really think I want to get a PhD now. And can you tell me a little bit more about your process? And can you help me get into school? So happened, this lady, Dr. Lisa Say, and I'll never forget that. She was working at Clark Atlanta. They had just hired her as a new faculty. She had earned 2 PhDs from the University of Alabama, one in like political science or something like that. I forgot the other one. But she gave me the real deal. She was like, listen, I will support you because I'm all about supporting other people. And I will write you a letter of recommendation to the University of Alabama. But once you get there, you're going to just need to know you need to work hard. You're going to have to work hard, pull your own weight. And, so I had a contact, a person who, really wrote a letter of recommendation for me. And so how I came, let me backtrack a little bit, to become interested in the University of Alabama, my background is so diverse. I knew I didn't want to get a PhD in English. I knew I didn't really want to do something like specifically African American studies. I wanted a degree that would allow me to combine my diverse background, English, African Women Studies, all the stuff that I was interested in. And so I started looking up interdisciplinary studies programs, and the University of Alabama, which is located in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Roll Tide, they had an interdisciplinary studies program. I think they still have that program. So I researched this program and started really researching the university, and started learning something about the history of the university. And I said, okay, this might be a good place for me to apply. So again, I reached out to Dr. Say, who was a faculty member at Clark Atlanta University for a very brief period. She supported my application. I also acquired letters from other people from Tougaloo and elsewhere. And so, I had my packet ready to go. So I applied to the University of Alabama, but I didn't just apply. I also was making contact with people down in Tuscaloosa. So while I was working at Clark Atlanta, and thank God for my boss at the time, I told him what I was trying to do. I think I told him somewhat. I didn't tell him everything, but he allowed me the flexibility to do what I needed to do to make sure that I was securing my bag in a sense. So on some days, I would have the opportunity, I would just drive to Tuscaloosa, which wasn't that far from Atlanta, and go and try to do a tour of the campus. And one day I just popped up and I said, well, let me go tour the interdisciplinary studies program, and let me also tour the social work program, because this sort of aligns with what I'm interested in. I'm not really sure. And also my uncle, who has a PhD, was like, girl, you need to major in the field, because interdisciplinary studies, I don't know, when you try to get a job, they may or may not work. So I was like, all right, let me just go look at social work while I'm here, because the interdisciplinary studies program didn't really have a department. It's just kind of, it could be women's studies, gender, math, whatever. It's a combination of many different departments. So I stopped by the social work department, and so I didn't have on anything. I wasn't dressed up. I was just walking and said, well, let me just go see what this place is about. The campus was beautiful. University of Alabama is a beautiful campus. And it just so happened that Dr. Ike Adams was the dean of the School of Social Work at that time. Dr. Adams is a Tougaloo College graduate from the Mississippi Delta like me. So just so happened I met him in the hallway or somewhere, or someone directed me to Dr. Adams' office, and he actually personally walked me around to meet different faculty members, and I'll never forget that. It was just on a probably random Thursday that I had taken off from work, driven my butt down to Tuscaloosa to just see what this school was about, because I knew I needed to research the process. And so Dr. Adams doing that really let me know that I would have a support system at the University of Alabama when I, if I were to be accepted. But during that process, I was also making contact with the deans. Like, me and one of my friends in the PhD program was like, you have to almost be a stalker. If you're trying to get into a PhD program, you need to make sure you have your ducks lined up, but you also have to let the committee know that you're really serious about it and that you're interested in attending their university. So I applied to one PhD program. Don't you know, I was accepted to the University of Alabama, and I was accepted to the Interdisciplinary Studies program. And after one semester, I ended up reapplying to become a part of the social work program. And so I had to go through just the whole process again of applying, but it really wasn't like applying to get into graduate school again. It was applying to that particular social work program. I think I had to write like an essay and, demonstrate why I would be a good fit. And so in a sense, I was almost in a cohort of one the whole time. I started my PhD in 2007, August. That's when I started at the University of Alabama. I graduated in August. I started my PhD August 2007. I finished my PhD in December 2014. And I had a beautiful time at the University of Alabama. I had ups, I had downs, I had some challenges, but that's the life of any PhD student. Nothing is a cakewalk, and if you are in a rigorous program, you need to be expected to work. You're gonna have to work your butt off. And so I just did that. So here are some of my points if you're looking to get into a PhD program. So this has been a little scattered, but hopefully you can follow my message. Number one, seek God's direction. As I mentioned earlier, I was trying to go to law school. I was like, no, I'm going to be a lawyer. This is what it is, and that's my plan. While I'm here at Tougaloo, majoring in English, I want to go to law school. And I remember, this is a side note, applying to this program called Clio. And there was this lady over, a black lady, and she was just like, you know what, you just might need to go on a different path, because I don't think that's for you. Law school is just not for you. You just don't have what it takes. And you don't have what it takes to be a lawyer. Clio is this program designed to help racial and ethnic minority students who may not necessarily score high on the LSAT, which is the law school admissions test, get into law school. Like, you go through like a summer program to prep you for law school. That lady's disdain for my interest in law school let me know that whenever I became successful, I would never tell a person what they could or could not do. And she just had such a nasty attitude about it. And so I say this, seek God's direction. You will have people telling you what you can and cannot do, but at the end of the day, you have to know that you are a child of God, okay? And so don't listen to people telling you that, you won't be successful at this. They don't know your path. They don't know what God has for you. They don't know the plans that God has for your life. So seek God's direction. One of my favorite scriptures is Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. So when I was applying to University of Alabama, I had done the background work. I had made contact. I was emailing people, establishing mentors. I had done a lot of this just to get into the program. But ultimately, it was God's will for me. And like I said, I applied to one program, and everything else, is history. Second, research your program and your schools. Make sure that they are accredited. You want to research the program that you're interested in, because you don't want to just jump into something and make a blind decision. You want to go to a school that has a good reputation, that is going to have resources and everything that you need to surround yourself with to succeed. You also want to make sure that you enter into a program where you can identify a mentor. Mentorship has been so important to my success, and I will mention some of that a little bit later. But I identified African American female mentors, but also I found so many more mentors at the University of Alabama and even outside the University of Alabama who helped me during my tenure at the university. Okay, so another thing, before you get into your program, you want to research faculty profiles to see if there's someone who you have a similar research interest in. I was interested in looking at health disparities, particular breast cancer health disparities. There was a faculty there who was doing similar research. Also, there were other faculty members across different departments who had a similar interest in health disparities research. As we know, public health is a big thing, and so health disparities research and health equity is just a topic that's not going away given all of the issues that are facing communities of color. So I had an interest in not necessarily public health, and it sort of relates to public health, but combining social work with my interest in health equity, health justice, and just really making sure that people are being treated fair in certain systems. And I became interested, particularly the healthcare system, and I became interested in this because I'm from the Mississippi Delta, okay? And I grew up seeing my grandparents go to doctors waiting 8-9 hours just to see the doctor, being mistreated, facing an unjust healthcare system, and that just pissed me off. And so I knew that I wanted to do something to eradicate these wrongs and to be an advocate for people who are pretty much voiceless or who just, oftentimes are taken advantage of. Another thing you want to do is to really make sure your institution that you're interested in has a source of funding or is able to, help you fund your education. If I had to do my whole education experience over, knowing what I know now, I could have gone to school absolutely free. Luckily, and I was blessed to find a program called the Southern Regional SREB, Southern Region Educational Board State Doctoral Program. I was in that program for about 7 years, and my education was paid for, but I also had student loans to help me with the cost of living. But while I was at the University of Alabama, I was on a fellowship, also had research assistantships, graduate teaching assistantships, and those things helped me to pay for my education. And now that I'm a professor, all I have to do is the employment certification, and if I pay my student loans for up to 10 years, then my loans will be swiped. Some of my student loans have already been swiped. Another thing I would encourage you to do if you're looking to get into a PhD program is to apply early. As I mentioned earlier, I was doing a lot of background research to ensure that, I would be successful in getting into a PhD program at the University of Alabama. And so oftentimes the communities of color, a lot of students may not necessarily know that, they need to apply early. You need to apply, whatever you're doing, apply early. As soon as they open up applications or start accepting, you need to have your application in that same week. So this means you have to do a lot of the work beforehand. Don't wait until the week that the application process closes to get all your information in. So this means if they require you to have your GRE in or certain test scores in, you don't have to wait until your whole application is completed. You can start sending that information in early. Send it to the graduate school early. Start sending information in early so that when the application process is fully opened by the department or the graduate school, half of your stuff is already there. So all you have to do is mail those letters. So make sure, you start the process early and try to stay as organized as possible. Another thing I would suggest is if you are accepted, and I hope you do get into your first, second, third, whatever choices, and I would suggest you have A, B, C schools. So A schools would be your top schools, B schools would be your next best, C would be those schools that are third on your list. And keep your options open because, just because you don't get into one doesn't mean you shouldn't, seek out other schools. But be prepared to show up and to be ready to work. A PhD program is a rigorous process. No one is going to hold your hand. So if you don't like to write now, you may not want to apply to a PhD program. If you don't like to read now, you may not want to apply to a PhD program. It's a reading, writing, critical thinking process that lasts up to 3 to 10 years. And particularly for students of color, often it takes 10 years to complete PhDs. So I learned this through my mentorship program, which was very helpful to me because I completed it in 7 years. But it takes Black students up to 10 years to complete their PhD. And so there's a disparity there. So make sure you're prepared to work. Identify mentors to help you out. You should not be isolated in your PhD program. I recently spoke with a person who said they had no sense of support, no mentors, nobody. I don't know how they made it through, because I made it through the University of Alabama and my PhD program and still am succeeding because I have a lot of mentors. So mentorship is so important. So get some mentors and start researching mentoring programs. Even if you have your PhD, this can still be a benefit to you. One of my professors told me when I was getting ready to engage in the process of defending, and I had reached candidacy. He said, "I'll serve in your committee, but you need to eliminate all distractions." So if you aren't prepared to really eliminate a lot of the distractions in your life, and just really buckle down and like let the club go, isolate some of your friends, you may not be ready to get into a PhD program, because you really have to buckle down and focus on, studying and becoming a scholar. You have to show up on time. You have to respond to emails. You have to attend meetings. You have to be a team player. You can't just be isolating yourself. And also, you have to learn how to navigate relationships. Everything can't be a situation where you just throw in the towel, or you fall out with your advisor and you don't mend the relationships. So you kind of have to navigate the politics of academia. And I may make a video about that a little bit later. And finally, the last thing I would say is mentor. Find a mentor. Find someone to really give you insight. Someone who has gone through the path before you, who can mentor you, especially if you are a person from a community of color, because oftentimes we are the only ones in our program. There were many days where I was the only African American female in the classroom. What did that do for me? It didn't break down my self-esteem. What it gave me was a level of confidence to know that I had to have my game face on, and it wasn't on all the time, but I knew that I had to show up in a certain way, and just had to eliminate a lot of the excuses. And so that's one of the things you will learn very quickly in the PhD program. If you have a lot of excuses for why you can't get this done, why you can't meet this obligation, your committee members and your faculty members are going to drop you like a hot cake, like a hot potato, like a hot cake, because they don't want to deal with you. So understand that you can't waste people's time. You have to be focused. You need to have your own research agenda. Thank you, Dr. Moffitt, for telling me that. Know what you're interested in, and most of all, know that you can do it. There were people who told me I shouldn't attend the University of Alabama. I had an uncle in particular to tell me that. He was like, "Girl, I had this friend in the 80s who went. They were so this, that, and the other." A little bit. If you know anything about the University of Alabama, it has a history of being insensitive toward communities of color, and a lot of that has since changed. Well, one of the things I say to you, and one of the things I had to tell myself, is I said, you know what? W.B. Du Bois, all these different people earned these PhDs back in the 1800s. They went to Harvard, Yale. All these people were doing this great stuff. If they could do it then, when they didn't have internet technology, half of the resources, programs that I have access to, certainly I can do it in 2007. In 2014. Okay, so don't let other people's fears stop you from manifesting or walking in what God has called you to do. Don't listen to people. It might be your family members, your friends telling you don't do this or don't do that. You follow the voice of God. That's why I mentioned first, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. My sister is finishing her PhD program. I'm so happy for her. My cousin Nataki has a PhD. I'm so happy for her. My cousin Charles is a pharmacist, and the list goes on and on. I'm proud of my relatives. I'm proud of the things that God has allowed me to accomplish in my life, and I humbly say that with a humble heart, because it was hard work, many sacrifices, and I wouldn't have done any of it without the support of my mom, my dad, my family, my friends, people cheering me on, my church family, friendship praying for me, people who just genuinely believed in me and thought that what I was doing was great. My mentoring programs, SREB, all those programs I was in, I was able to get to this point simply because God aligned me with the right people. But I didn't just wait on God. I put my faith to work. I was aggressive about, trying to align myself with the people who I knew could helped me in really having genuine relationships with people. It wasn't just like a, what can you do for me, but how can you sow into my life, but how can I in turn sow into this program or be a good example for whatever the goal is of a certain program. So those are my tidbits. I hope this video has been helpful and inspirational to you. If you need some guidance or just want to know more about my process, check out my book, The Struggle is Real, But You Can Succeed. It's on Google Play, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and anywhere books are sold. Thank you so much, and give me your feedback on this video. Have a wonderful day.